Welcome to Zerg Talks. I'm Zifnab Dragoon, and this is
Proteus.
Proteus. Generally, you are a Protoss player on the ladder?
Predominantly.
Cool. Since this is Zerg Talks, I wanted a Protoss's viewpoint on how to battle them. And then, since you also play random, I'd like to know how you do your Zerg build. Just the first, 10, 15 minutes?
Sure. Well, depending on what race I'm facing, if I don't know the race yet, or if I choose not to scout, which I should more often, I'll typically go with straight to roaches. Tend to ignore zerglings because I get bogged down with them a little too much, and it's easy for me to want to go speedlings.
Yeah.
And I get stuck in that, and if those don't work, then I'm screwed. So I'll go roaches, go for the 1-1 upgrades with roaches, and depending on how the other player, AI, what have you, works, I'll typically try to throw some hydras in there for anti-air, depending on how the other person's doing their build. But the key thing I love doing with roaches is that they're one of the best base defense units in the game per cost for any race.
No, why do you say that?
Well, they're cheap. They don't take a lot of time to build, and they also take up a lot of space for something that's that cheap. So you can just pop them up in the middle of a ramp,
right.
Use them as like a wall, basically like a mobile supply depots. Essentially, just throw them at the entrance and just pop them up, and they'll just basically be meat shield / that douchebag who's in the mall who won't get out of the way fast enough. So.
All right, someone's been to the mall recently. So
So very versatile.
yes, the versatility. The earlier Burrow or the earlier Overlord speed, has that affected your gameplay at all?
Not really.
No.
I almost never use overlords. I should use them more, but I typically just bump them up to overseer if I want to use them in the field, because overseers are a lot faster without the upgrade.
True. Now, your building placement as a Zerg player, do you do the building wall? Like, here's your hatchery, you put the pool and evolution chamber so they can't just run in here with a couple hellions, they have to run out the back?
No, I've seen that done, and honestly, I should probably play around with that a bit more, but maybe it's just me, but it always seems like the more energy I put into building placement, the less I put into units. Okay. And I've had very mixed results with trying to do buildings with any of the three races as a defense mechanism.
A lot of the Protoss players that I've gone against love walling off their ramp with Supply Depot. It's not Supply Depot. It's a pylon.
Pylon, gateway kind of thing? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that. That works really well against AI and inexperienced players, but the fact of the matter is, as a Protoss, you don't really want to put yourself in that position, because unlike the Zerg and the Terran, you can't undo that.
That's true.
There's no way you can unblock that, and given the Protoss on average at least appear to have slightly larger units, although don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
That
what
can
the
be an
unit
issue.
tester is for.
And yeah, absolutely. And I've actually used the wall off method as the Protoss a few times, only to realize that I actually ended up having to destroy my own buildings because one of my satellites was getting taken out, and I didn't have my Air Force ready yet. So my defense basically ended up being the nail in the coffin, and I ended up losing specifically because of that mistake.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you like playing as the Protoss? Do you like going robotics facility gateway, pure gateway, starport gateway?
At the moment, it all depends really on my mood. Sometimes I'll do 4-gate, warp gate. Sometimes I'll do 3 warp gate, 1 robotics facility, or sometimes if I feel I've got a good solid defense in the high ground, I'll just cannon off my entrance and go straight to air. But that's very risky, particularly considering the build times with the Protoss.
Yeah, and all the resources. Do you use that usually just your main and your natural, or just your main?
Sometimes I can pull it off with the main if I'm not being hammered too hard. Like if I don't have to keep constantly replacing a lot of units defending.
Yeah.
Like if I seem to be holding off pretty well, then I'll have like a little bank that I can draw that from. And the beauty of photon cannons is the fact that they don't cost gas, so you can just pretty much flood those around and just, Protoss seem to be Maybe they're all good at getting minerals, but I always seem to have like way more minerals with the Protoss.
Yeah.
And gas seems to be the one that's harder to get. So if you're going to go Air Force or you're going to go heavy tech with Protoss, cannons aren't going to interfere with that nearly as much as they would with other things.
And instead of a few cannons, would you suggest a few zealots scouting around?
Oh sure, absolutely. Yeah, because unlike the typical units they use for scouts, zealots don't explode when you breathe on them wrong.
That's true. Now, back to being a Zerg player. I find that if I'm playing a Zerg and I'm going against a Terran, if they get their Marine tank up with medevac support, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
What do you see in the first 10-15 minutes that you could do other than scouting and contamination with the layer?
I would say your best bet there, see with the medevacs. Because obviously the priority on that attack should be to take out the tanks, because they're going to do the most damage in the long run. But of course, the ball of Marines with medevacs backing them up makes that a problem. However, and of course the rate of fire, the way the Marines attack, you don't really have a chance to get heavy units in there to take them out. I would say if you can, just bum rush them with a bunch of banelings. Blast out the front. Now, if they're coming to you, set up the banelings defensively, wait for them to pop up, and then as soon as they pop up, send another group of banelings in. If you can, from the side, flank them. And so basically, you take out their front row and you smack them hard enough on the side to where they're scattered, their forward line is in disarray, and then move in with whatever you have. But yeah, that's a tough one. I faced that a lot as Zerg, and oof.
That's what I've been facing against now. And this guy knows how to split his Marines, so where my banelings do not do enough. Either that or not really enough banelings.
How many do you typically throw in? Well, let's say he's got 18 Marines and 4 tanks. How many banelings would you send?
Oh, good lord. I have a standard 8 to 16 banelings. And then
wow, that doesn't do it?
I don't have baneling speed, but I have wing speed. So.
Oh yeah, I would say with the baneling speed, because because honestly the reason I said banelings is because I was thinking of how fast they move when they're upgraded. Because before they have a chance to really know what's going on, you can just throw them in really fast. And
right. What about baneling drops? Because I know you don't use your overlords because you just said that, but baneling drops from the side, because flanking is easier if you don't have to worry about the terrain so much. Like Daybreak, do you remember that map? It's a space map, kind of dark blue. It's got a lot of ramps and 2 towers.
yes, I know what you're talking about.
All right.
Where you're like in the corners, and I got you.
That map, that's real easy because I have the banelings over here, wait for the overlord speed and the overlord, the drop. And load the banelings up, wait for him to move out to there, because he's going to want that sight.
Yeah.
Then drop him on his Marines, and then he either pulls back or he pushes forward hard. And that's where I drop Hydralisks at his main.
Okay. I can see that.
Because I love them Hydras.
Yeah.
I mean, we're Brood War players mostly. So
absolutely. Respect.
Boom. You got to have the Hydralisks in there somewhere. And usually, before the speed upgrade was given back to us, I had to keep them in base. They were mainly against Phoenixes, so whenever they flew over, I could snipe them.
Oh, did Hydras get a speed upgrade?
Yeah, they got a speed upgrade,
Oh.
and the thing that they shoot. The spines. The spines are great.
Oh, in the Heart of the Swarm.
Right.
That's right, I know what you're talking about. I thought you meant like they patched it by default. I got you.
Oh, I wish they would patch it by default. Imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Crack Hydras.
I'll bet you do. Yeah, I remember carriers versus a group of Hydras in Brood War.
Oh, that was hell.
Because the carriers would be fine. Just wouldn't have anything else.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, they look really pretty sitting there watching the battle after all the interceptors are in pieces on the ground with the Hydras going.
Yes. Back to those days would be wonderful. Another thing, for the early rush to Nidus worms, you can do that in 10 minutes with just a whole bunch of lanes.
For sure.
What do you think that would play out on a map like Daybreak?
So many factors to consider. We'll say against a Terran of
Let's keep it Terran.
not expert player difficulty. I would say have at least 2 on the sides. It's tempting to want to put the Nidus Worms close to their base, but the problem is, well, seemingly obvious, but you don't want to put them in a position to be destroyed before you get your units set up. And I also tend to not want to show my hand and not want to put units out at first, because there's the risk of them being attacked. But at the same time, if they're out there by themselves, they don't tend to draw as much attention,
right.
And they can't attack something. So if something's flying by, it won't. The other player won't be like, "Oh, hey, there's something there." Mm-hmm. And also, if you put them in the far corners, adjacent to the base corners, even really good human players have a hard time figuring out where they are. Especially if you put them up on a hill where the creep can't come down.
Yeah.
And that drives people nuts.
I know that would drive me nuts if I was playing Protoss.
But yeah, and you said speedlings too, and that would be great with speedlings because, even if you have a distance of the ramp away from where they are, speedlings are going to make that a non-issue because they can just flood around there in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But one thing I've been trying to work on lately is having that build where you have you rush to Nidus Worms, you have the speedlings, excuse me, and try to have 1-1-1 for the Zerg, melee, ranged, and armor. Yeah. And what I like to do is have the speedlings go through the Nidus Worms, and have the hydras and roaches be the main wave.
So the roaches and stuff are at the front.
Yes.
Distracting them while the Zerglings are going in like these expansions?
Exactly. And, well, that works too, but one thing I love to do is the fact that the Zerglings are so much faster, like even without the speedlings, it's really hard to maneuver them all as one group together but typically the Zerglings will be too far in front of the other ones to make effective meat shields because by the time they're dead, the other side is more than able to go back and hit your guys again. You don't really get that advantage. So what I love to do is I love to have the Nidus Worms off sides, send the main wave up the middle in a pretty standard looking attack, and then when they see them, I'll move my units back, I'll move the Zerglings in,
right, and
just kind of do this like kind of horseshoe shape thing, and then have my units push against them. So there's no one point that they can hit that's going to hurt me a lot. So I just kind of slowly, just not so much pincer, but just kind of like a horseshoe, like moving flame kind of thing.
So they just cup you. I mean, you cup them with,
with
the reinforced stem of the roach hydra.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's, early game, because we've had games where they've gone an hour.
Oh, yes,
and oh my gosh, those were anus bleeding hard for me. Especially because, you're rocking out with the Protoss and the air fleet, and I'm going, I have flying eggshells.
They've always, man. Even in 2 and Brood War and StarCraft Vanilla, man, Zerg Air Force has always been the weak point. Especially air to air.
Yeah. I love their corruptors, though. I have no problem with a corruptor.
Those are pretty good.
Especially if you get to use the spell, the corruption spell on everything, or on just screw everything. Just some things like 4, and you can knock their the Protoss especially down.
Oh yeah.
But
I know that.
Vikings range has really been sniping me, especially.
Yeah. Lord.
I'm doing Corruptor Hydra Ultra for my in-game stuff, and that's 3/3 armor and attack for melee. I have nothing in range, and I'm trying to get the queens up front. And the only fastest way I can do it is pop them in overlords and drop them out so I can heal the ultralisks.
Right.
Because oh my god, Thor's just massacre me.
Yeah, because you and I were trying those test maps not too long ago, and I see what you mean. I didn't quite understand what you meant, what a nightmare the Thors are against the Zerg early to mid build, but oh my lord.
The Marauder Thor, kids.
Yeah, Marauder Thor, that's what it was.
Good lord.
Yeah, if you don't want to learn strategy with the Terrans, but you want to make life for your Zerg friends a nightmare, Marauders with concussion shells and Thor.
And I think you beat me every single time under 20 minutes. Yeah. And I was doing everything but Nidus Worms.
Yeah. And I was doing nothing but that. Like, I wasn't getting upgrades.
No upgrades?
No.
Other than concussive, of course.
Yeah, except for concussive shells. Oh, I don't send Marauders out without that. Like, sending Marauders out with the concussive shells is like sending Marines out without their helmets. So here, have fun. But, sir, shouldn't we? Nah, it costs too much money.
It costs too much.
Economy down, you know how it goes.
So, yes, that's... basically...
And while I'm on that subject, if you're a Protoss player and you send your Colossi out without Thermal Lancers, I believe there's a special place in hell for you.
The Thermal Lance upgrade's not that expensive compared to everything else the Protoss have to deal with.
It costs less than the cost of one Colossus. That's all you need to know.
And with Chrono, you can get it out before, I think, before Colossus itself.
Well, not with me.
No?
Because whenever I build a Colossus,
it's out.
I'm chronoing.
Oh, okay.
Nonstop. if I build anything that is more than 4 supply, I've got like my Nexuses, Nexi, whatever, just going chrono like crazy.
All right, cool. That's I mean, the only thing I'm using chrono on is my upgrades for Protoss. Probably why I'm only like silver. So that's always fun. Trying to like your main race and you off race, as people put it these days. I don't remember that terminology being in Brood War, off racing. I mean, and we were 5-star generals the first month we were on there. So.
Yeah, no lie, man. We rocked that stuff. And I find that I don't have nearly, or rather, I didn't have nearly as much trouble with the Zerg in Brood War as I do Zerg in 2.
In 2, the Zerglings have 35. In Vanilla and Brood War, they had 55, like the Marines.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean...
Yeah, because it does feel like they're, unless you really micro the bejesus out of them, it feels like the Zerglings aren't nearly as useful, and I guess that's why. Lord.
Cracklings are, if you can get them, because I can get the adrenaline upgrade. You speed plus the adrenaline makes them cracklings. Those cracklings are wonderful with ultralisks.
Oh, cracklings, as in crack cocaine.
Yeah,
I thought you meant
cocaine.
like cracklings.
Like
food over a roast, like crackling. I was like, do you like set them on fire and throw their burnt corpses at the enemy? Because
yes. Although that's another thing that I've noticed with the models high. You can actually see the tanks bounce roasted Zergling bodies. That is hilarious.
Really, I've never looked closely at that before. But I have seen some interesting things on high with high models and all the stuff.
That was hilarious. I mean, I told the guy, sorry, that was just too funny. Your tanks bounced a dozen lings at a time. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because my ultralists are coming with the 5 armor.
Oh god, imagine if they came out with a patch that like running over the enemies did damage.
That would be hilarious.
That would be awesome.
Because I would want the Colossi to do the kebab, and
well, the Protoss would be kind of screwed because they don't really have anything that
Archon can blast over because they're massive.
Archon. Because I was thinking like aesthetically, like it doesn't. I wasn't thinking of the Archon, but I was thinking it doesn't look like they have anything that would run over them because everything they have is a walker. But yeah, you're right. The Archon could just. Well, I would think like the Archon would just get close to them and just get like. Yeah. So it'd be like Zergling to Archon, mosquito, bug zapper.
Bug zapper, yes. And hey, that's a true analogy right now.
Yeah.
Okay, have you seen those kids on there as Protoss players? Who was it? It's a professional player. Is it Life? I don't know. It was one of the Korean kids. He made 6 Archons in the first 20-25 minutes against a Ling Ultra player, and he had Immortals behind them, the Archons. Oh my god, he mauled.
I'm sure he did.
Oh my god, I didn't even know you could do
talk
that.
about meat shields, good lord. 360 shield. Oh yeah, whenever people complain about the Protoss being overpowered, especially in 2, just remember, we used to have shield batteries.
Oh, and I wish they would bring that back.
I don't.
I know, but still, I want it back. It was fun.
2 letters, man. OP.
OP.
Total OP. It was. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Protoss player. I love the toss, but nah, that was OP. I'm glad they took that out.
What was it? 2 Archons and 2 or 4 shield batteries in Brood War.
Oh, I would have, like, if I really wanted to, because statistically speaking, I could micro a much more effective defense than this, but I love doing things that got inside the player's head. And one of my favorite things to do would be to have just 1 Archon. Just one at my entrance. Just one. And, people would see that and be like, alright, let's go for it. What they didn't realize was I would have like 12 shield batteries behind it.
Whoa, okay.
And I would just keep recharge, and especially if it's a bottlenecked entrance, it really doesn't matter how much damage you do, you're not going to overpower that. And that's what I always think of that whenever I think of the shield batteries, because if you can fend off an entire, like, 100 supply attack wave with 1 dude and buildings, they're recharged, because I didn't even spend anything.
Right.
That was the most heinous thing about it. He probably lost about God, he probably lost about 12,000 resources on that attack.
What? Really?
And I didn't lose any.
Not one.
No, the Archon survived. I mean, there were a wave of like staggered photon cannons behind him, like behind the shield batteries, just in case. But they got bored. I mean,
They got
just,
bored.
They were looking up like, "Hey, Frank, you wanna? No, okay.
Pass some down, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spread that that sadness and shame this way.
Yes. Puddles of sadness and shame, my dear friends.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, that wraps that up. Did you want to plug your studio?
Nah.
No? Alright. Cool.
Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. So the only thing people would see would be a page going, "Hi, welcome to Studio Anomaly."
Alright, cool. Well, that,
Someday.
Yeah. That, my friends, was Zerg Talks. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll have another Hive Mind update for your tech talk about how things can communicate with each other and with the human mind.
Interesting.